Hey guys, today I wanted to talk about the overarching theme of dynamic range as a compositional technique in film, TV, and video game scores. Basically, dynamic range is just the distance between the loudest passages and the quietest, and it's something that is very, very prominent in classical music and for sure there's huge dynamic range sweeps in film and television stuff, and just that I wanted to demonstrate how impactful that is, and some actual techniques, or a single actual technique in what it's just what it practically sounds like and feels like. And I'm going to build it around an aphorism by one of my favorite writers and philosophers, Nassim Taleb, who said something along the lines of, if you want to be understood, be unintelligible. And I know explaining aphorisms is maybe a little bit lame, but I want to expand on it to apply it to see how it applies to music. And though that quote seems contradictory, I think what it means, and in his case, he's not a Tony Robbins style public speaker. He doesn't have a deep booming baritone that like just pierces over everyone else's voice. He sometimes it's really hard to understand him, but when you think about that effect, when you make yourself hard to be heard, people lean in and they listen harder, and there's your answer right there in what it is. And that's basically everything that I want to talk about today, is what effect makes you lean in and draws you in and makes you sort of forget you're listening, like what degree of nuance is required. That's the difference between those things, and that's why when talking about dynamic range, that's more or less what I mean, is how like we know big, loud, it's in your face, it's getting your attention because there's nothing else to be heard, but sometimes that pushes you back. And what can you do to sort of manipulate that just the volume alone to draw people in and to make them forget everything else and just get that singular focus going forward. So I want to tie this into a couple other things that I'm a big purveyor of, and one of them is quality gear and equipment. You know that I've talked extensively about the necessity of production quality in what we do as a film, television, and game composer, as just more necessary than great compositional technique is very good production. And that doesn't mean that you can just buy good gear and you will sound good, but it is kind of the last 10% and the nuance in making something really, really good. And how I'm going to demonstrate that, or going to try to anyway, is I'm going to show you a bit of the gear. I'm in my little upstairs recording room. You can see I've put like some minimal treatment around here. The big thing is this room is really quiet. I'm not on, there's no subsonic frequencies. I'm not on a busy road. There's a little river out back that just is totally gone. And the two mics I have set up, I have a Neumann M149 that's just my voice right now, and then I have this Neumann U87, but it's special because it's got tube guts instead of a FET. So I did this upgrade kit for it where you just swap the components out. It has a little power supply, and now it's a totally different sounding microphone. And what I find that I get out of it is it's more dynamically responsive, which I absolutely love, that you can play very quietly and with a really good sort of clean dimension. Like there's so much dimension to the sound, which is great. And the preamps I'm using here is a Millennia STT1. It's There, you can kind of see it. It's a switchable topology. What a pretentious word, topology. It has tube and solid state components that you can switch in and out. A transformer, it's an EQ and a compressor. I don't have the EQ going. I'm on the solid state mode, so I don't oversaturate like the sound of the mic. I also have a Millennia HV3 and the Chandler LTD1s, which is like a Neve 2254 style compressor. It's people like it for mastering. I like it for tracking because it kind of just adds some fuzz without a ton of color. So where the good quality gear is different than the lower quality stuff is obviously in self noise, which you want to keep low, dynamic range, sensitivity. You can get tons of vibe and character and a really good sound out of cheap gear, but there is sometimes something lacking in the nuance, and within the nuance, I think that's where a lot of the interesting stuff happens. I mean, that's just where the truth sort of lies. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna turn on the U87, and I've got a Lexicon 480 reverb going. Check. So it's all washy now. I'm gonna shut myself up a little bit, and I'm gonna compare two instruments. One is like an $1,100 just off the shelf mandolin. The brand is Trinity College. I've had it for a while. It's pretty broken in. I thought it was a great mandolin when I bought it till I played a great mandolin. And what I want to talk about here and why I'm talking about all this gear is when that whole sort of cliche of a great player sounds great and sounds like themselves on any instrument is I mean, it's true, but when it comes to building your technique and building your sound, I really believe that there is nothing that can make you a better player quicker than owning a really, really great instrument that responds to the subtlety and the nuance of the technique. And even if that's just being able to feel it more, because so much of it is about the feel. Like, I could record these two instruments and maybe you wouldn't notice a difference at all, but you would really, were you playing them and were you learning on them, you would come up with completely different stuff, a different playing style. And it is all about, when it comes to capturing the best performance, it is so much about that nuance. So I'm not really warmed up here, but I'm gonna turn on the U87. Check. So now we're in space, and I'm just gonna like, so it sounds totally fine. And I was happy with that one for a long time, but I got this one. It's kind of luthier made by, the guy's name's Andrew Poe. The brand is Driftwood. I don't think he's made a ton of these. I think this was like number 60. Oh, number 22. So I'm gonna play this one for a bit, and I just wanted to describe what I think are the characteristic differences between them. So, first things first, I just don't want to stop playing this, and that's huge. I'm going to put myself back to not outer space mode. Oh, that's the sound of a truck going by. Who is full of shit? Always me. Oh, that's refreshing. So, between those two things, and why I'm talking about dynamic range, why I'm talking about buying nice instruments, why I'm talking about gear with good sort of like sensitivity to dynamics and very little self noise, and being in a room that doesn't have the sound of a refrigerator going all the time, is because capturing that nuance is like, I hope you noticed it when I was playing the other instrument, the ability to almost take a breath and to just be on it's so subtle. It's like this thin layer of ice, just a membrane that's separating everything that just feels like it wants to burst. And that's where I'm going back to that Taleb quote that if you want to be understood, be unintelligible. It's that unintelligibility with the volume is pulling it back, so you know it's there, and you know the character, and it's doing something that you really want to listen to, but it's challenging you to hear it. And that's where an instrument with the sort of constructive capacity, like the way it's been built, with all these little it's just got the right tone woods, and it does the right things in the right place, and it's set up well, and it holds the tuning, and it doesn't it's just a beautiful piece of music, it's it enables you. I guess, okay, yes, you could still sound very good on the cheaper mandolin, and the fact is that's not even a cheap mandolin. If I really, really wanted to push this point, I would go get a $200 mandolin and just show you what the value of a more expensive instrument is. I think the driftwood one, I think they're like $6,000 US. I got it used, and it was still a lot of money, but not that much money. But it was, to me, it's so worth it because I just don't want to put it down. So, like I was saying, you can do it on a cheap instrument, but to me, it's just the difference between an inspired performance and one that just, kind of does the trick. And having every component in the signal chain being able to capture that nuance and that quality and that character is a huge variable in keeping people drawn in, because sometimes as a composer you forget that music is a temporal performance going through time, and being able to kind of capture that is special, and you want to be able to, we have this technology to record these performances and to make them last and to be able to repeat them, which is extra special. But yeah, I mean, I think that I hope that kind of gets my point in, just as a scoring technique and what you can do with that that extra layer of subtlety, those things that, I guess when it comes to higher end equipment, you're going to be making music with 30, 40, 50 tracks, multiple layers, and even if this gear is 3% better, once you use it 20 times and layer it, that becomes pretty exponential to the final product, and you'll see there is great value in investing in your equipment. To go back for something to think about is you cannot know what you do not know. So what I would describe, why I would go back to this mandolin, is that a certain playing technique comes out when I pick this instrument up that I wouldn't have thought about. It just, something different comes out when I pick this instrument up versus the other one. That's the worst noodle. Why did I even do that? I'm so sad I recorded that. But I really derailed myself with that. So all I'm saying is that in order to develop your technique to a degree of subtlety, you need an instrument, you need equipment that's responsive to that subtlety, and without that, you cannot know what you do not know. So you can't hear what doesn't exist. You can't theorize about what you would be capable of playing on a better instrument that's more inspiring, because there just aren't words for that, you know. So that's the big difference, and that's the point that I'd just like to kind of drive home, is using the equipment and having the right setup and the right gear to be able to take advantage of techniques that, because scoring is so subtle. A good score versus a great score is literally just being able to do the right thing at the right time and make it the right thing. And sometimes that's a degree of just tiny, minute fractional details and little margins, and just like these things compound into being a great score. And yeah, I don't know, just a couple thoughts on things.